podcast.
You listen to Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
Oh, beautiful, man. What is up, people? Welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast, episode 111. Coming to you on the heels of UFC 241, where we have a new Stipe Miocic walking away with the heavyweight strap. I am Matthew Wells. Alongside me, as always, Kendrick Johnson. We got a nice little lineup for you guys today. 3 guests. Curtis Blaydes, UFC heavyweight, heading out to Abu Dhabi. We've got our good friend Justin Buckholtz, one of the best trainers in the world, and one of the best analysts on the MMA media side of the game, Mr. Dan Tom. Kendrick, real quickly here before we get into these interviews, biggest takeaway from UFC 241?
DC's ego cost him the belt. He said he couldn't be hurt. He kept shrugging, and then Stipe made one of the best adjustments I've seen in a championship fight. Even though MMA and boxing are completely different, that body's still the same. You do good body work, you get him up out of there. He put that body work hammer down in that 4th round. That was beautiful work. DC had props to DC for taking the ones he did, because those can get an average human out. But you're gonna take so many before you be looking like he was with a bruised up face and your belt gone just like that.
Yeah. There was a beautiful adjustment by Stipe, man, going to the body. Not only was he was digging those shots in there,
rib cage.
digging those shots in there, and usually what we see, in MMA a lot of times is that fighters will find something that works and they'll go to it a couple of times. But now Stipe, he just started spamming it. He started spamming the body shots, and that led to the finish. So, I mean, hey, if it keeps working and they're not adjusting to it, you might as well keep doing it. So props to Stipe going out there and getting it done. I did have a poll up on my Twitter, man. I'm actually kind of shocked about this, about the amount of people that want to see just DC retire, and we're not talking about a trilogy.
We got to see the trilogy. For history's sake, we need to see the trilogy, see who's the best heavyweight. There's no narrative. People are prisoners of the moment. Stipe, unequivocally, the best heavyweight of all time. He's in the conversation without a doubt. Unequivocally, y'all act like last July didn't happen. I was there, and I won $875 because it happened. So don't act like it did happen.
Yeah, it definitely happened. It definitely happened for sure. And that's the crazy thing to me, man, is that everyone... Usually when things are 1-1, usually when it's 1-1, everybody's like, all right, you got to do the third. Especially when the first fight was a knockout and the second fight was a knockout. You both won in the same fashion. So you got to... Actually, it was a little bit different because DC knocked him all the way out. DC didn't get knocked all the way out. Yeah. I mean, it was a TKO stoppage.
I think, though... Because Stipe was like, I know I was a better fighter. I really think that they fought 5 rounds. DC won 4 to 5 rounds.
Yeah, DC's definitely, for sure. But Stipe, I mean, hey, props to Stipe, man. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but you got to run the third one back before we see DC right off into the sunset. If you're me, for my opinion, that's just me. A lot of other good things happened on this card. I mean, Nate Diaz came back spectacular. I scored the fight for Paulo Costa, who got his hand raised as well. All these things we will talk about in these interviews with our guests.
Pops to Paulo Costa, he moved up in my book. Dude's tough. Dude got hard. Dude got a chin. He gonna be a problem.
He is gonna be a problem for sure. He's gonna be a problem. Definitely, him getting that win definitely makes things interesting in that division, and we'll see how this plays out with the title fight going down in between Whitaker and Adesanya here pretty soon. So can't wait for that. A lot of good things coming down soon. What's that?
The Nate Diaz return?
Yeah, the Nate Diaz. Like I said, we talk about all that stuff in these interviews. We got to get on out of here. We got to keep the intro short this week. But appreciate everybody out there rocking with us, as always. Thanks to the new subscribers on the YouTube.
Keep dinging that bell.
Yeah, if you're a first-time watcher, hit that subscribe button. Turn on that bell. Hit that like button. We appreciate it. Share it with your friends, all the good stuff. Yeah, we'll be back next week with more great guests for you. And if you feel like, donating to the show to help us keep growing, the links are in the description below. Hit us on the Cash App, hit us on the Venmo. We'd appreciate that as well. So enjoy these interviews. We got Curtis Blaydes up first, Justin Buckholtz, and then Dan Tom. And until next week, peace.
Please welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast, making Slip and Dip debut. Number 4 ranked in the world heavyweight contender, Curtis Razor Blaydes. Getting ready for his big fight in Abu Dhabi, man. You getting ready to go on the other side of the world, literally.
Yeah, get ready to leave in like 18 days.
Yeah. What do you have to do? Do you think this, with your style of fighting, that you can keep doing that and just keep beating these people, that eventually they're gonna have to give you your title shot, or you think you're gonna have to take some chances and try to do something that you usually don't do, or go for a knockout to be able to get them to finally give you your title shot?
I hope they give me the title shot just based off of merit, off my victories. I don't plan on altering my style, because my style provides me the opportunity to have longevity. I don't get hit very much. I don't like the standing bang. I think that's one of the things that hurt Cain Velasquez's career. I feel like had he not had as many wars, those standing bang wars, the ones the fans love, had he not had as many of those, maybe he's still around. Maybe he's still out there collecting paychecks right now. But yeah, I hope they give me a title shot eventually. But that's not really, I can't control that. That's one of the things that my coaches and I, we talk about. Only worrying about the things you can directly control. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure.
When you see somebody like the DC Stipe fight that you saw this weekend, do you deep down be kind of like, yes, because that's mileage on those guys' bodies? Well, DC basically got one leg out the door, and Stipe, that puts him a step closer because you're going to take so many punches. Do you get excited when you see that? Do you think about it from that perspective, since you're an active fighter, or it doesn't faze you either way?
I mean, no, it doesn't really affect me. I mean, because some guys just built the standing bang. Yeah, guys like Mark Hunt, he's been in 1,000 wars and hasn't really slowed him down. He still fights exactly the same, and he's getting knocked out, he's knocking you out. So some guys are just built for that. I'm not. That's not my style. Not what I'm about. I don't like getting hit in the face.
Right? I don't know too many people that do like getting hit in the face. But what did you think about the fight? Since Kendrick brought it up, what did you think about the fight between Stipe and DC?
Oh, I thought it was a great fight. That was the fight that I was expecting to see last year. I think that's how it would have gone down last year had Stipe, had he gotten out of the first round. I think eventually he would have worn DC down. He was even heavier last year. He seemed to tire out this weekend. He came in at the lightest he's ever weighed in at heavyweight. And last year he was 10 pounds heavier. So I feel like the game plan would have worked just as effectively last year had he just gotten out of that first round.
Yeah, so we when we talked to Javier Mendez, DC's trainer, after the first fight, he said that DC felt that like Stipe couldn't hurt him at all. It was a thing where he felt like any of his punches weren't going to hit him, and I feel like that was part of what played out into the second fight, was that DC just stood in the pocket the whole time and didn't really respect the power.
I mean, with DC, that's where he lives. He has to live in the pocket because of his reach, especially going against heavyweights. Like a guy like me, I have an 81-inch reach. He doesn't want to be on the outside of my jab. He wants to be on the inside. So him being on the inside of the pocket, yeah, it didn't really work out his way. But that's just how he has to fight. He can't be on the outside.
Yeah, that's why he can't beat John Jones. It's like it's a physical mismatch.
Yeah.
Because, John got the power that y'all got at heavyweight. He's got the skills to back it up, as we saw in the two fights.
Yeah. John Jones his length is hard to get a guy, a sparring partner, to recreate that. So it's hard to spar for that. It's hard to get ready because you don't get to look at a guy with that type of reach. And when you get in there with John Jones, you're like, oh shit, his reach is long as hell. I mean, DC, he knows the reach better than almost anybody because they've already fought 2 times, so he knows.
Right, yeah. It's I don't know. It's one of those things. Obviously, we're not going to get the third fight. It's just going to be one of those things that just happens. I think it's kind of crazy how a lot of people immediately jump to the retirement thing for DC and not the trilogy. With Stipe,
yeah.
With Stipe.
Yeah, that's weird. I would have thought that would have been automatic because it's another big paycheck and it just seems easy. But that's all about the athlete. If DC, if he don't want to be in there no more, I know he's getting older. After a loss like that, that's gotta mess with your psyche. You don't feel like that dude no more, and you're fighting father time every day. So maybe retirement's not a bad thing. I mean, he's already got a job with was it ESPN or FS1?
Yeah.
One of those. He's already got a job. So I mean, he don't really need the money, I don't think.
Right.
We have a recurring thing on this podcast about Father Tom showing up. Do you think Father Tom showed up on DC on Saturday? Because I always tell my co-hosts, it's not like you like he can still fight at a high level, but when you see something happen to a fighter or even an athlete, like even somebody in another sport that you've never seen before, that's Father Tom showing up. Have we seen DC get knocked the fuck out like he did, like that old any fight? Well, that's Father Tom.
John Jones did it.
I mean, it can happen. Guys getting knocked out especially heavyweights. So it's hard to be able to isolate that and be like, that was his age. Because last year I got dropped by Ngannou. It wasn't because I was old. I'm not old. It's just he got me in the right spot.
Since you brought him up, is that somebody that you have to see before, like one more time before you end your career? I know y'all fought twice. Is that somebody that you're gonna angle for a trilogy, regardless of if he got a belt or if you got a belt? Do you have to see him for your own boom? That's the only person that's beating you.
I don't have to see him, but I'm pretty sure it's likely to happen because he's only 5 years older than me. He's got another couple years. I'm only 28, so I'm gonna be here. We'll definitely want to get that going again. I don't know when, but he'll be around.
For sure. So since we're back on the subject of you, you're coming off the win on Justin Willis back in March, and your second fight in 2019 against Shamil. What do you see any challenges that this guy can give you? I mean, he's on a nice little win streak himself. So what's the preparation and how all that stuff going into this fight for him?
I mean, the preparation for this one's a little easier because Justin was a southpaw. So there's rules you have to follow when you're going against a southpaw, like that outside leg, the outside hand. Always having to stay outside of that. Going against Shamil Abdurrahimov, I think his biggest strength is probably his wrestling and his toughness. He's like one of those old school, gritty Russian heavyweights, and Russians are always tough, hard to put away. I fought one 2 years ago, Alexei Olenek. Yeah. He was pretty hard to put away. So the preparation is just I'm focusing on the things I do best. My wrestling, I still believe I'm the better wrestler. I believe I'm the better striker. I believe I'm better everywhere. I believe if I fight my best fight and he fights his best, I still win. But he is a UFC heavyweight. I do respect him. He is the heavyweight. And I respect his power. I don't want to get hit. I am ASAP. Gas him out a little bit, and then next round we can play on our feet.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of a weird spot I think you're in right now because you're ranked number 4, right? We don't know what's going to happen with Stipe and Cormier if they do run it back a third time, and then above you got Francis, and then you got Junior Dos Santos. So. I mean, obviously you go out there and get the win, which a lot of people are expecting you to do. Who are you looking to call out? Who are you looking to get in there with against?
The most sense. They're not going to get me Ngannou again. They're not going to get me Stipe because he has the belt now. DC, he's not going to fight me. So I don't want to fight Derek Lewis because I think he's a bum and he's ranked below me. So really the only guy available that makes sense is Junior.
It's Junior, okay.
We kind of have some connection problems. Who'd you say was a bum that you don't want you don't want to fight that's ranked below you?
Derek Lewis. He's already admitted he's not a real MMA fighter. He doesn't go to practice. He practices like half hour a week. I got too much respect for the work I put in. I work out 2 times a day. I put in a lot of hours, a lot of work, a lot of sweating. I'm up here in this elevation. I'm in Colorado. I train at 5,800 feet above sea level. So I I know my conditioning is A1. I know he wouldn't last. His only chance to beat me would to do what Ngannou did and just get me early. Because I get him on the ground, he ain't getting back up.
I got you.
Not even.
Do you need somebody like that to get you going? Because I remember Justin Willis had you going in your last fight. That kind of got you. And we saw a little more motion. Like you come out there and do your thing, but you can't. You have a little extra mustard on those elbows that you were landing to get him up out of there for all the pre-fight time.
I mean, I don't like doing all that. That's unnecessary. I'm a martial artist. I don't get down with that McGregor at BS. I don't need that. I come out there to work. I respect you as a martial artist. I appreciate you for taking the fight, give me an opportunity to put my skills on display, make a paycheck, feed my daughter. But I don't need to hate you. I come from a wrestling background. We don't talk smack. You go out there, you wrestle, you win, you lose, you shake hands, you go back on the seat, you watch your teammates wrestle. No smack talk.
What was the beef though with him?
There was no. I mean, he instigated all that. He was doing the McGregor thing, the Kobe Covington thing. There's no beef. He was just hyping it up, and it definitely backfired.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing about when you go that route, right? Like if you don't go out there and win, you kind of look a little silly if you kind of playing this character that's not really you, right?
Exactly, and that's why there's enough pressure. I'm going out there to fight a skilled 240+ pound man. Like, that's enough pressure. I don't need to say I'm gonna head kick him in the first round or destroy him. There's no need for all that. Like, I might win. I might lose. I enter my fights with a very, almost like a gladiator. I'm prepared to die. I'm prepared to lose. I accept that's a possibility, and I don't let it hang over my head like, oh, I might lose. I don't even think about that. 'Cause I know it's a possibility. I know the less I think about it, the less likely it's gonna happen.
Yeah. What about a guy like Walt Harris? Are you guys cool with each other?
Oh yeah, me and Walt, we cool.
Oh, okay.
Cool,
would that be a guy that would interest you, or is he too far down the rankings for you at this point?
Yeah, I don't see Walt and I ever having a fight. And he just got booked to fight one of my old opponents and now one of my current teammates, Alice Overing. So
right, yeah, that's gonna be a good fight.
Yeah, that's the big one for Walt, the big one for Alistair.
So basically, if you in the top 4, Curtis Blaydes ain't trying to deal with you.
No, I mean, if it's not going to propel me, like I said, every fight is a risk, so I'm not going to take unnecessary risk. I'm going against Abdurahimov just because I need an opponent, I need a paycheck. Can't be going 8 months without a paycheck. So I'm just fighting him just because I need something.
Yeah, I feel you on that, man. I feel you on that. Fighter pay is a whole nother issue I think we could go on for a whole nother episode about. But yeah, man, it's good to see you coming back in action. Are you looking to, maybe possibly squeeze in a third this year after this? Or that be it for 2019 for Curtis Blaydes?
Well, yeah, like I said, I'd like to get on December-ish.
You froze up on us, Curtis.
Yeah, you froze up again. What was your response to that?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I said December or January. That's fine with me.
Okay. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's Abu Dhabi though. Is that gonna be your first time out there?
Yeah, my first time in that region, Middle East.
Does the distance traveled and everything like that, is that a concern or whatever?
No, I've already been. I debuted against Ngannou in Croatia. That was a 12-hour flight. Then I went to Australia to fight Mark Hunt. That was 26 hours. And then I went to Beijing last year to fight Ngannou. That was like another 18 hours. So flights ain't nothing.
And I guess being that you train at elevation, you don't have to worry about getting acclimated to the different location or anything like that, right?
I mean, the whole sleep thing a little bit. I get there a little early, but the elevation is actually in my favor.
Yeah.
I looked it up. Abu Dhabi is actually like 50 feet below sea level.
Right.
So I think my condition, I should be the better conditioned fighter.
Okay. Yeah, man. Well, we look forward to it for sure. Going down, it's a big card. I mean, Khabib and Dustin Poirier. Do you have any way you're leaning on that fight in the main event?
Oh, definitely. I'm definitely going with Khabib. I'm really geeked up to meet him. By the way, I remember he mentioned my name in a video like last year, talking about how he respects my wrestling. So I'm really geeked up to meet him.
Okay.
That's cool. I like that. Like y'all guys are legit fans of the sport. Like y'all like,
yeah.
Well, he's a coworker, in the individual sport. I think that's the craziest thing. Like when you don't have no teammate, like a real teammate, it's like, what are you talking about? This ain't NBA or NFL.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I kind of do have teammates because I train out here with Team Elevation. It's me, Drew Dober, Neil Magny, Corey Sanhagen, who just won this weekend against the Sunsound.
Fantastic fight, yeah.
But yeah, we got a couple guys.
Man, we've had your team all on the show except for Alistair. You get a hell of a Alistair on. We've had Corey. Neil's a friend of the show. Neil comes on often. We've had Corey on once. We've had Drew on. We just need to get Alistair. We get the whole team, right. Literally.
Yeah. And my roommate's he just got in also. My roommate Austin Hubbard. He's a lightweight.
Okay, yeah. That's dope, man. So, my last question for you is: it safe to say that Curtis Blaydes is the best wrestler at heavyweight now? Now that DC's taken another loss and he may be out the door, are you the best wrestler in heavyweight now?
I think the record I recently just made speaks for itself. The most takedowns in heavyweight history in only 9 fights. I'm looking to break GSP's record of 90 takedowns.
Okay. How many are you at right now?
I got 40. He did his in 21 fights. At the pace I'm on right now, I'll get mine in 20 fights.
Okay. Curtis got them analytics out there, got them metrics.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to have goals, and I'm sure the main goal is, of course, that heavyweight strap.
That strap.
But hey, that would be a nice feather in your cap as well. So, yeah, man.
Hey, when you get that belt, remember the guys that won your team, but we ride with you before you got that belt, because you know how people come out the woodwork. We ride with you.
I appreciate it. No, I remember. I got a good memory.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, best of luck, man, going all the way out to Abu Dhabi. Look forward to seeing the fight. And obviously, of course, looking forward to have you back on the show to talk about the win.
Well, yeah, that'd be cool. I'm down.
Hey, I'm about on slip and dip. You ball, you get the call. So you ball in Al Nabi. We'll give you a week or two to get your legs back under you. Then we'll get I'll get you up.
Well, yeah, the next week I'm going to my roommate's fight. He's on to be on that Vancouver card.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and
you getting all kinds of step on your passport.
Yeah, globetrotting for real.
Gaethje works out with us also at Elevation. He's going to be the main event for the Vancouver card.
Yeah. Against Cowboy, that's a hell of a fight too, man. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Well, Curtis, man, thanks for the time, brother. We'll let you get back to it, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, man. Thank you. I appreciate you guys' time.
Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip Podcast. Friend of the show, one of the best trainers in the MMA game, Mr. Justin Buckholtz. What do you think about this craziness from UFC 241? That was like in your backyard, basically.
Yeah, that was intense, man. That was a good win for California. Nate Diaz came back after 3 years. That was pretty impressive. I was impressed.
Do you think
Pettis was no joke, man? Pettis was coming to that fight well prepared, motivated, and that fight should have happened a long time ago, and it was cool to see that play out the way it did.
You think he fought a dumb technical fight? He uses kicks, and we know Nate don't check kicks. He threw some, but he didn't throw enough that he was very worried about it.
Man, I felt like the first round was
close.
Pettis was looking pretty good, but then he gave up his back at the end, and then the second round, when the fight was kind of over for Pettis, was when he kicked Nate in the knee, and he fell down. if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
He kicked him and he went right to his back because I think he didn't have to necessarily break his foot, but sometimes you land those shots with your ankle or instep and you hit the wrong part of the shin and you're going to cripple yourself basically.
Yeah.
And
I think he actually did break his foot.
Oh, did he really? Yeah, it took his biggest weapon away, and he was kind of a sitting duck, and then he got in that war of attrition with Diaz. That's the last place you want to be. Guy's a triathlete.
Yeah, so you don't want that smoke.
100%. Yeah. He's a tough ass dude, man, and I think that what surprised me the most is that he looked just as good as he did in that last Conor fight as he did, even better, considering all things considered that layoff.
He brought my buddy Kit Cope out there. He's a Muay Thai world champion, WC, UFC vet, and that was one of his Muay Thai coaches in that camp. So, it's good to see those guys evolve and bring in, the necessary sparring partners. But the Diaz brothers always been good at bringing in sparring partners. But usually it's been boxers as far as I've known. But, they bring in Joe Schilling and whatnot. But actually coaching him, that was a good move, bringing in Kit Cope. He probably had something to do with that check. So,
right. Yeah.
Good on him.
What do you think about that crazy Romero and Costa fight? I had Romero winning. My co-host had Costa winning.
Man, that fight for me, I love Yoel Romero, man. He's like my favorite fighter right now. What was that?
Look at me on camera with the tongue out.
You off the camera on his camera.
Oh,
there you are. There you are. There's that smiling face.
He chipped me out with that.
Sticking his tongue out.
Dude was like, was he rope it open or not? It's like, did he have a mouthpiece in? Yoel had me rolling.
Yeah, no, he's great. As far as the fight, man, it was Costa. He's so buff and strong and big. That guy is going to be trouble for anybody, man. That guy, it doesn't matter. Man, it doesn't matter if Yoel's been wrestling, since he was a baby. It doesn't matter, man. Costa wants it just as bad. He's big, he's strong, and a guy like that, who with that kind of mental strength and who really believes in himself is a tough guy to beat, and that kind of surpasses the training and the pedigree that a fighter brings in, I believe.
Exactly.
It's about how bad you want it, the will to win. And Yoel it's a different galaxy when it comes to wrestling, but when you got a young, motivated fighter like that, yeah, you can take him down, but he's going to still be trying to whoop your ass. He's going to get up and he's going to come after you. So, but the scoring, man, honestly, my stream was kind of choppy. So my purchased pay-per-view, I should say, was kind of choppy, But,
yeah, ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus.
ESPN Plus has been glitchy. I know. I feel you.
Yeah,
it's been glitchy.
So it was hard to score it like seriously objectively, but from what I saw, I felt like Costa deserved the win. That fight was so damn close. It was so damn close. I wanted Yoel to win, of course, but also I like the way it shakes up the division, and I like that Costa has this feud with Izzy. Yeah, and I like how he said that he's mad. It's personal because Adesanya said that his arms are like dinosaurs. I'm like, I think that's a compliment, dude.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird thing.
Yeah, he moved up in my book because I didn't care for him. Who is he knocked out? So, like you said, that his heart and his chin, I didn't say he won me over, but he definitely gonna be a problem because it's one thing to be blasting people, but what you gonna do when you get blasted? He was right there. He took it like a champ.
Yeah, man, I agree. And to win me over, if you get a win over Yoel Romero, man, you could beat anyone in the division, guaranteed.
It went toe to toe. It went toe to toe.
That guy, yeah, man, that guy's a Superman, Romero.
100%.
He beat Cael Sanderson in wrestling. That's all Cael Sanderson does. Cael Sanderson never fought; he only wrestled. And Yoel Romero's got wins over him. I think 2 wins.
Yeah, and we did rewatch the second round a few minutes ago, and I'm even more convinced that Costa won that second round now.
Nice. Nice.
Having a second look at it. I mean, he just landed the cleaner shots. Romero got a takedown, but it was with 5 seconds left, and when it hit the mat, he ate an elbow from Costa. So it was like, that's not enough to win the round for me. But performance.
Yeah, nice. Playing off of that, I think when your Romero was getting hit, he kept making all those funny faces and stuff.
Yeah.
As a judge, I'm scoring more for Costa.
Exactly.
I'm like, yeah, that means it hurts, dude. That doesn't take the punch away. That means you got hit.
Fighters got to stop doing that, man. We at the boxing event we covered here a couple weeks ago. There was a guy doing that. Every time he got punched in the face, clean, he would start doing like this little shoulder shimmy. Like, okay, you're just letting the refs know you just got tagged again. Like,
yeah, man, I agree with you on that. I don't like that. The showboating and all that crap that's not part of sport. You're supposed to be a sportsman, and I'm not against it. I am against it, but I don't encourage it. If a fighter decides to do it or something, he better win the dang fight, because then you just look like a jerk.
100%. Switching gears, main event, DC, Trilogy or retirement? Which one are you going with?
Trilogy for sure, 100%. I don't care if DC's heart's not in it anymore. Just collect that check, man, right off in the sunset with a pocket full of cash. You know what I mean? For real, he deserves it. And I don't care what anyone says. Oh, just tarnish your legacy. How about put $500,000 in your bank account? Go coach the kids at Gilroy. Secure the futures for your kids. I mean, I know he's got good investments. He sounds like a good businessman just from watching him bet it. He's got a restaurant in Miami. He's got some barber shops. Yeah. So, I mean, everyone says it's not about the money, but look, man, when you get old and you're done working or you're done competing, it is the money. You need that money for your freedom and I'm a big believer in collecting the check. You're not going to have the opportunity to collect $500,000, $1 million, whatever he's making. And the Trilogy fight, it was a good scrap, man. And they're 1-1. The rubber match is a rare thing. One guy wins, the other guy wins. Then there's a rubber match, and it's finalized. And I think they should definitely do it because I mean he was more than in that fight. Yeah,
he was winning.
Yeah.
Justin, tell me this. I learned a long time ago when I used to watch Rampage before I start covering MMA. You hear these people with these pedigrees. Oh, he's a world-class wrestler. He's a black belt jiu-jitsu. And these MFers never use it when they need to. We all know about DC wrestling. We saw it in the first round, and then it just went away. It's like, come on. Why do fighters do that?
No, I would say with that, I agree with you 100%. I think he definitely has an advantage over anyone wrestling, and they should have, not that they should have, but it seems like in hindsight with 2020, it would have been a smarter idea to focus more on the wrestling. But you got to remember the last fight, he iced him with a one-punch knockout in the first round. So he felt if he could land again, he was going to knock him out. So they had that strategy going in, I felt. But, man, taking a guy like Stipe is like the Jolly Green Giant to me. He's like a big, goofy, funny dude, and you grab that dude, pick him up, and take him down. That's about all the energy you got for the rest of that round. You know what I mean? So to continually do that for 5 rounds, to take someone like Stipe down, hold him down, you go into the championship rounds and you're the one gassed, from taking him down. You might have won the first 3, but you'd be a sitting duck. You don't got no any energy. You used it all. Right. So that has to play into it, but you could do that and be energy efficient as well, and that's masterful game planning. And the guys at AKA are top notch, top notch guys in the sport. But I feel like the one punch knockout probably hurt DC more than it helped him in the rematch. You know what I mean? It gave him that confidence to land that punch. And 100%. I don't know what the heck was up with this defense, man. Why was his hands down? He only reached out.
He hurt him.
I didn't get that. He just kept eating those punches and sticking his hands out. I mean, that basic striking is you got to have your hands up by your face. I mean, Muay Thai, there's styles with the hands down and MMA and all this point fight stuff. But you go to Marcus and Queensberry rules, you fight like that, you're going to eat punches all day and get knocked out. And that's what happened, kind of.
Well, what do you think about Stipe being a coach? How he made it? Because I always trip out on. I guess because I give in my boxing mode. How these fools do not make no adjustments. We got some of the best fighters in the world that won't make no adjustments in the middle of a top level fight like Stipe did, and with Canelo on that ass in the 4th round. That was beautiful. He with Canelo was just digging.
Yeah, that was a beautiful body shot. Beautiful body shots, plural, but. Man, I agree with you. I think that comes from the room. I think that comes from coaching. I mean, you can only put so much so much, I'd say, responsibility of the fight on the fighter to adjust. I mean, he should have a plan A, B, C, or D. He should be seeing the different looks from the different sparring partners in the room and be able to adjust. And also the mentality going in there, like, you know, there's great fighters who never have a game plan, and they adjust in there. They just prepare. But, you know, obviously today you should have a game plan, but you should have a plan B, C, and then if it comes down to, you know, you as the fighter, I mean, I guess I do have to put the responsibility on the fighter to make those adjustments. If it's not working, you got to modify. I mean, that's what the great ones do. So,
yeah. Tell me what you think about this little theory that I've been kind of mulling over the past couple of days. It seems like when...
All right, now we're talking.
Yeah,
It
seems like when we've seen, you know, some guys get a certain level of success, seems like the actual fights start to not matter as much. We saw it with Conor and Khabib. We saw it with Tyron Woodley when he went out there against Kamaru. And I think we just saw it with DC against Stipe. Because I think part of what we touched on a second ago, in the first fight, DC went out there and knocked him out so easily. I think he felt he could go out there and just do the same thing and not have to, you know, worry about changing up his game plan as much. Even though he said that he knew Stipe would come in.
Man, I would agree. Yeah. I would say I would agree with you 100%. The thing that threw me off was DC's low weight and Stipe's low weight. I knew they trained their asses off for that fight. They both came in something like 10 pounds under what they did before, so I knew they trained their asses off. It's not a thing about I saw Brett Okamoto. He
get
posted.
Him. I saw that tweet too. Go get him, Justin, get him.
Well, no, he just tweeted. I mean, he's an analyst, so he's not in the room, but you know, he's an intelligent analyst. I respect the dude, but he tweeted that he's like, this tells me one thing about this fight. These guys are focused on speed. I'm like, dude, it's 10 pounds for a heavyweight, man. That's a sauna session. Like, they're not focused on speed. The fact they came in that light shows that they got in dog shape. They lost that extra 10 pounds and came in a little lighter because of the training, because of the endurance. They knew they were going to fight a tough guy. I mean, if we went by that logic of losing 10 pounds makes you faster, DC at 205 would look like Mighty Mouse. You know what I mean? This speed difference isn't that much, and it's 50 pounds lighter. So that's kind of a misconception, but I saw a lot of people favor it and stuff, and I was just like, it didn't really make sense to me. But
no, I got you corrected them.
Yeah. But going back on what you said, for me, I'm a big believer in this. Money makes you weak. Money makes you soft. The more you win, the more yes men that come around you, the more groupies come around you. And that is where it becomes the hardest thing, man. I mean, I've been there with guys who've won world titles, UFC world titles multiple times. And the winning the title wasn't the hard part if the mentality and of course it was a hard part, but there were, you know, we've accomplished these goals having fun doing it, and when all the stuff that comes with being the man starts seeping in your head and you start hearing the wrong stuff and you start valuing the wrong things, you can see how it affects these guys at the top level. That being said, it's only at the top for a reason, because when you get there, everyone's trying to take your head off. So it's just everyone's you got a target on your back, everyone's coming after you. So if you don't stay there that long, someone beats you, hey man, that's the way of the world, you know. The dominant lion, he can't be the dominant lion forever. Eventually he slips up and some young buck comes and gets him. But when you're the young buck on top, you got no excuse. You should stay there. You know, when you have your system, you should stay up there. I believe that, you know. I believe that when you get there and you've done it right, you continue doing it right. You have to continually improve. You have to continually get better. You have to make it. I mean, everyone wants to fight. Everyone want to be an MMA fighter, but no one want to do no hard ass work. You know, no one want to cut no hard ass weight.
He cut the promo.
But to be a champion, you need to make it harder. You know what I mean? The next camp needs to be harder, not easier. It needs to be harder because there's a bigger target on your back, and the rest of the world catches up. You can come out TJ Dillashaw versus Heenan Barao, 7-1 underdog, and blow the world away with some bang Muay Thai and some switch steps and some sprint crosses. Guess what? 1 month later, everyone's doing that. Everyone's doing that. The footwork and stuff, everyone's doing it. The game catches up. You know what I mean? It's like if you had a play in football, a secret play, every camp, every team is going to know that and prepare for it. And you got to get better. You got to continually innovate. You got to continue to evolve. But you have to focus on what got you there, and you have to be a fundamentalist when it comes to boxing. And that we're coming back to DC on that. Why were the hands out? You know, why were the hands down the whole time? Like, how many punches did he eat unnecessarily with just hands up by his cheekbones or eyebrow?
But I can hear that Bob guy, I don't know his name, and Javier basically get your effing hands up. He wouldn't listen to his corner. His corner was telling him what to do. He even said it after the fight. So, because like, I always like, before I start getting in fights, I'll be like, why is this dude doing this or whatever? Most of the time, the trainer's telling the right thing, as you know, the dude just don't listen.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and man, it's a fist fight. I can't blame him. You know, you're the captain of the ship in there. You're the quarterback. If I'm calling a play or if I'm calling a certain pitch and you wave me off, you better win the fight. That's all I'm saying. You better win the fight. So, you know, absolutely no disrespect to DC. I mean, that guy, he's a legend, and his legacy is more than secured. I mean, the guy's the inspiration and
champ
fighter. Yeah, champ. You know, exactly. He won the heavyweight belt. Only got to do that and hold them both at the same time. And not only that, he knocked out the most credentialed heavyweight that the UFC's ever had. You know, I think the best heavyweight the UFC's ever had is my boy Randy Couture, but he didn't have 3 defenses, but he had 2 belts. You know, I mean, I think he's got 4 or 5 belts total. He didn't hold them at the same time, but Couture's a legend. I mean, they tried to erase him from UFC, and you know, they're not changing history for me. I was there. I watched this guy do work. He's the man, Captain America, the natural. Randy Couture is the best heavyweight that's fought in the UFC, I think. And he fought Brock Lesnar and almost took him down. He didn't quite win the fight, but he's a 205er, for goodness sakes, against.
I tell you what, the thing that's tripping me out so much is that
people are prisoners of the moment. CB said, they say unequivocally the best heavyweight. Now, if he beats him again, what are you going to say when DC win the rematch? Because that's DC's the John Jones losses. That's a whole different thing. But at heavyweight, DC's a natural heavyweight that fought at 205. He's the opposite of Randy Couture. He was a natural light heavy that fought at heavyweight. DC was a heavy that fought at 205.
Exactly. Yeah. And you look at his what DC's done in the heavyweight division. Yeah. Like the opponents he's beaten, it's comparable to Stipe. It's comparable to Stipe's. Yeah. I mean, it's not defenses, but he won the Strikeforce tournament. I don't know any other active heavyweight
he was an alternate.
Yeah. Unreal, man. Unreal.
Yes.
This guy's amazing.
I remember that like it was yesterday, man. But the fact that people are writing off DC, like I saw so many people saying,
best heavyweight of all time.
No, not that part. I'm talking about people saying, can we... somebody tweeted out, one of these MMA trolls, somebody tweeted out, can we now admit that DC was one of the most overrated fighters of all time? I'm like, what the?
Oh, how dare you, sir? What? How dare you? That guy's sitting there
simultaneously and defend it, which nobody else has done. Everybody will be doing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that guy's sitting in his mom's basement, you know what I mean? Banging with his broomstick on the ceiling, telling her to be quiet. You know what I mean? These trolls, man, they don't have a leg to stand on. You know, so they're the useful idiots, man. Matthew, me and you are on Twitter. We see all the garbage that gets tweeted all the time. Like it's like the thing about Twitter too is 20% of America is on Twitter, and 10% of Twitter users do 90% of the tweeting. So you're using stuff is a couple of assholes. You know what I'm saying? And me and you, but I like our opinions.
like I say, man, like I say all the time, people of all IQ levels have access to social media. So you got to keep that in mind.
That's it. Yeah.
Wow. I've been ways I bought it, but I ain't like y'all. Y'all hardcore. If like I saw with Uncle Moko, I was thinking that, but I wasn't. I didn't trigger me to put in some characters. My man Buckholtz like, bruh, what are you talking about?
Yeah. It's weird.
Tell me this, Justin. When you think about
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
When you think about what quantifies a star in MMA now? Because I like Jorge Masvidal. He got the spectacular knockout. Now all of a sudden he's a star because he got a buzz. Like he's hot, but there's a difference between being hot and being a star. How the F are you a star? You ain't got a belt. You ain't no Diaz. You ain't driving. You're not a money guy. Like Diaz don't have a belt, but he's a money guy, so he is a star. You're not an A-side, so I know he's hot right now, but he walking around like he an A-side and demanding money and come on now. Like, I understand the man trying to capitalize, but you're not that guy, Jorge. You got 49 fights of being an average Joe.
No, for me though, I mean, you're only as good as your last fight, and look at his last 2 fights. What? Dude,
He's
he
hot.
knocked out.
I ain't saying he wasn't hot. He's hot.
Yeah, I mean, and so now you just got to give him the chance to really be a star. You know what I mean? He's got to fight either Nate, which would, dude, the best. The only guy who didn't like that call out is Leon Edwards. He's like, no, when Nate calls, the whole world wants to see that fight for sure.
Jorge's in the fight for the belt, or Carter or Nate. Jorge's in a great position. I'll give him that. He's the catbird seat. For him not to have a belt, he's going to fight for a belt or fight the 2 biggest money makers in the game.
Yeah, and I say give him a chance, man, because if he wins a matchup with any of those guys in any kind of spectacular fashion, he is a star. He is the A-side, Like, we don't have to write off, oh, you're the greatest right now. By no means. You had 2 amazing wins, so he's definitely a star, but let's give him that chance to fight Usman or give him that chance to fight Nate Diaz. And if he impresses like he did his last 2, man, then whatever, close the book. He's the man. He's doing it to fighters of that level. But hey, speaking of Masvidal, and of course you think of Ben Askren, how about Pettis saying that he was so effing happy that Askren got knocked out?
Man, that got overblown, bro. That got overblown.
He said it, though.
Shocked. My jaw dropped because Pettis was glowing. He looked like he was like showing Yoel a picture of his kid or something. He was so happy. That's his wrestling coach. Or his teammate. I'm like, I don't know what kind of team they running, but I used to run a team, and it wasn't, well, I don't know.
Here's how I saw it. I saw it as Pettis was saying he was happy for Jorge finally getting his shine and everything like that. And then when he said, hey, it sucked, it was my teammate. Of course. But, it was like, I think he was more so just being happy for Jorge getting his moment, getting his shine for another dude that's been in the game for forever,
If you're friends or teammates with Ben Askren and you see how that knee hit him, man, that shit was scary. I don't know how you.
Hell yeah, that was scary.
I don't see how you could be happy. If you care one little bit about that dude, I don't know how you're gonna be happy looking at that. I mean, he hit him with that knee, turned him into a corpse, man. I mean, that was
super scary. Super scary.
That was one of the most brutal ones. But no, I hear what you're saying, and for me, I'll give Pettis a pass on that. It's people talk shit. People talk shit all the time, and also they make jokes, and making light of something doesn't mean that's how you feel, So I agree with you.
And especially if you know how Pettis talks, like Pettis is always real go with the flow with everything, and he's always gonna be like try to relate to everything. So it's like I didn't take it as crazy as a lot of people were on social media. A lot of people were like, "Oh, I could never be this guy's teammate." Like, come on now.
Come on with that. But I agree with you too. If I'm talking to Yoel and he's talking about something, like, yeah, I'm so happy, I would just say whatever.
Yeah. For sure.
Because you actually watch boxing. Do you think the MMA media and MMA people need to know the difference between they dealing with somebody real and that's fake? Because like Jorge, they think he's so authentic. He's just another guy talking about the way he acts. Him and the Diaz. They're just another cholo, as my boy Conor McGregor say, talking noise in the boxing world, but in MMA, he's like, oh shit, he's a gangster. Oh, he's real. It's like they get so thrown off by that. It's like, go to one random boxing fight, you'll see somebody say even a star acting and talking the same way.
Man, that's a good point right there. I didn't really think about that. That's like
they throw these media people off. They don't know what to do. Oh, he's about that life. Yeah, he did come from the streets.
I agree with you. That's the difference between MMA and boxing, man. If you get into boxing's so brutal. Boxing's been around forever. Boxing's not like let's hold hands and have a big team and all this other crap. If you're a boxer, you're a gangster by definition, just about. You know what I mean? If you're an MMA fighter, you might be like I don't know, a psychology major or something who wrestled, and now you're doing that. Oh man, we're used to that in MMA. So if you're a fighter, you're a gangster. It shouldn't be no surprise to these MMA journalists. I agree with you. You. But hey, to bring something up, how about the biggest match in 115 right now? Cynthia Calvillo.
I was getting there. That was my next. That was the next sentence out of my mouth.
I'll
great mind.
If I could show you my desktop right now, I have it pulled up. That was my next question. But yeah, go down December 7th, man. Claudia and Cynthia, man. Yeah. That's going to be a big fight.
That's the match, man. I mean, I feel they better bring on something to make a main event, because right now that's the main event to me for sure. I mean, Claudia is I think, the second most popular fighter in the division next to Joanna, you know what I mean? Just with social media following and everything else. And she's a badass, tough Brazilian, good-looking lady versus a badass, tough American-Mexican lady. And we're going to see those two throw down, and it's going to be a war, man. That fight's going to be the spice, you know what I mean? And I think that matchup, as it gets closer, the hype's going to get around that and the fan base, because I know there's like boxing. There's a big boxing match, like I think Triple G or something. Someone's fighting in December, early December, and then I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me on that, but there's some boxing early in December. Then there's the fight in Vegas the week after. So I was like, man, I wonder if the cards are going to get swallowed up. But to me, I mean, thinking as a fan, that's the match I want to see. You know what I mean? 100%. The Brazilian versus Mexican American, and there can only be one. You know, let's make it let's make it 5 rounds.
That's
hilarious.
We
don't no 15-minute like someone surviving or nothing. We want to see a finish. We want to see blood. We want to see these two girls killing each other. Let's make it 5 rounds. Let's make it the main event. You know what I'm saying?
Are y'all training at AKA? I saw Cynthia had a picture and she just smiled. She sent me a smiley emoji when I talked to her. I was talking to her throughout the fight. We were going back and forth on Saturday. She's like, "I'll tell you later." That's all she said.
Yeah, no, she did a little training at AKA, and you know, you got to use the resources around you. So there'll be more surprises of some other training camps that she'll be a part of. You know, preparing for this fight. We're gonna leave no stone unturned, and we know Claudia is doing the same thing. You know, Claudia is probably more motivated for this fight. I mean, I think they got some drama over something like a long time ago too. These two girls, so you know, I personally
got drama. Cindy got drama with everybody in the top 10. She got drama with it. She said, "I just feel," and they think I'm pretending, but I'm for real. That's what she told us. She came on.
Yeah, you want to talk about gangsters, man? I mean, that girl, she really is a gangster, dude. Cynthia's just a gangster. She'll, you know, if we're in a war and you need someone in a foxhole with you and need someone to rely on, you can rely on her. She does what she says, and you know, she's a straight up, like, she's a tough martial artist, man. And I mean, look, I'm gonna say it. I don't want to say it. I didn't want to tell anyone this, especially not on your guys' show, you know, where the whole world's gonna hear. But Cynthia Calvillo can do a heavier kettlebell Turkish getup than I can. You know, I'm gonna say it. I'm 185 pounds. I'm pure muscle. She's a 115-pound girl. I'm running mountains every week, swimming, and she can do a heavier one than me, man. I try, you know, but my wrist is a little hurting right now. So
excuses. I like it.
How much technical?
115, like unreal.
How much technical do you have to get with this fight? Because, like, Claudia, as good as she is, she's not known for having the best footwork. Do you think, or just going to be, like, biting on the mouthpiece and going Paulo Costa, you know, Romero, female style?
You know, I would like to see a little bit of that in this fight. I'd like to see their wills go head-to-head, and I'd like to see who's got the bigger heart. I'd like to see a dogfight, a scrap, and I'd like to see it kind of in the grappling world, you know? I'd like to see them engage in grappling and get after it. Because on the stand-up, man, we got that. Don't worry about that. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, to be bragging or cocky or whatever like that is one thing. But in reality, Claudia is tough, man. She's got a hard right hand, and she's improving out there on the East Coast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
She's improving with Henry Hooft and Thomas Almeida, and they got some Korean kid who's their striking coach. He does good work out there. So we know she's going to be better than she was her last fight. Because honestly, you know, I wasn't that impressed, but with her last fight against, I think it was Randa Marcos. But yes. I caught glimpses of that. I was at that show and I didn't get to study it. But I will. We got about, I think, 15 weeks of hard training. So I know Claudia is gonna come hard, and she's from a legit top camp in the game, and we're coming hard too. Cynthia's she's gonna win or die in there, as far as she's concerned. That's where it's up to me and the referee and the promotion to keep that from happening. I mean, the death part, but she's willing to do that, you know. So when you got a fighter that's willing to do that, there's no reason they should lose, and she's gonna come hard, man. And so we're ready. We'll be ready.
Yeah, man. Look, Justin, man, we appreciate the time. I'm sure we'll talk to you again before the fight as that gets closer. in December. I mean, that's a hell of a card shaping up already. Overeem versus Harris is the main event right now, I think. But we'll see how it shapes out from here as it gets closer. But thanks for your time as always, man.
Hold up. That's the main event? Are you kidding me?
That's what's on the poster right now.
That's silly. It should be Cynthia, Overeem, and then whoever else. Think about what do we win? We got our fingers crossed for Alistair to be the heavyweight champ again. He's a prospect. No offense to him. He's got a resume longer than anyone in the dang sport, but his time has come it's been his time for the last 10 years. Now it's Cynthia Claudia's time. It's 115. Women empowerment. We're at our nation's capital. Let's do this. 5 rounds. We want to see a finish.
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm really not. I mean, we know that fight's not going to go. We know that main event's not going to go 5 rounds anyway. So why schedule it for 5?
Right? Exactly.
I'm with you on that. But yeah, man, we'll talk to you again as they get closer, man. Thanks for the time today. Recapping some fights with us. It's always good to talk to you, brother.
Of course, man. It's good to talk to you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, peace. Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast, one of our favorite fellow MMA media members in the game, one of the best analysts in the game. Find his work on MMA.
Knows what he's talking about.
He knows the deal. Mr. Dan Tom, welcome back to the show.
So I was talking about who don't know who we're talking about, so you know what you're talking about.
Man, I don't know if you guys are too kind. It's great to be back, of course, but I don't know how much I know what I'm talking about after this weekend, which, of course, is what makes this, sport of ours so interesting and entertaining. But, man, I don't know if I could take all that credit, but thank you, guys.
I think this weekend it had nothing to do with technicalness. It was all about ego. DC didn't think that Steve Becker hurt him, and he found out the hard way. That's what I really think it came down to, because we saw what happens when he wrestled in the first round. I'm not really buying this notion that, he can't do that for 5 rounds. He would have got tired because of how difficult he was. We ain't never seen him that light. He knew the fight was going to be longer. I think his ego just got the best of him, and he paid the price.
I got to agree with you there. In fact, both fights I did predict Cormier, and both I actually predicted the wrestling pace, that he could, in fact, do it, kind of going against that. And, the weight, like you said, that's a great point. I really think he came in, I predicted DC, we would see the best heavyweight form of DC, if you really consider, where he's at, all the lessons he's learned, the time he had coming in. So I completely side with you on that. And I didn't get a chance to listen to DC's post-fight, aside reading headline clippings, but I don't know if that's too far off from what he said either. I think even he would say that was fair, Kendrick.
Yeah, man. It's the concerning thing about the whole ordeal for me. Well, a couple of things, but since you talked about DC's post fight interviews and stuff like that, when Brett got him in the locker room, DC didn't seem like he was enthusiastic about coming back for a trilogy or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Usually when a fighter loses, like, you hear, like, oh, man, I got to get that back. Like, I know what I did wrong, yada, yada. It wasn't any of that talk. It was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah, but we just saying that cried after the John Jones. I didn't read into that. I just think he's over emotional. He's in the house of horrors that is the pond or the Honda Center. Don't fight there no more, DC. The rest of your life.
It's a haunted house for him now.
That's a house of horrors for that man. Literally.
Yeah, it's so naturally selfish for us to kind of want all those answers, but seeing the post-fight interviews, I did see that one, and then, of course, immediately after, I wasn't surprised by that, and I'm actually glad he did it that way. I feel like that's the smart way to handle it, is not to make any emotional decisions. I think he knew that before coming in. I think he was really trying to prep himself on victory or defeat, telling us, the media, the fans, say, hey, don't expect some kind of big parade, some kind of big speech, some retirement. Even if things went right, I think he was going to leave a lot of us wanting, right? And that's the natural thing after these things. Dana White always tells us, hey, stop trying to make me mad. The fights just happened. And, obviously maybe he'll say that when he doesn't want to answer a question, but there's a lot of truth to that. We're just so naturally wanting to know. So I'm actually glad Stipe's or DC's taking the time. But as far as reading into that emotion, I wouldn't be surprised, man, if he doesn't want to, come back for a third with Stipe, or is really not feeling that motivated to do so, especially right now.
Yeah, I guess that's also valid. It's also very valid as well. But the thing for me, like Kendrick kind of touched on the ego thing, when we had Javier on the show a little while back, when we asked him, you remember back to the first Stipe fight, when Stipe had him against the cage and DC just kind of threw his hands up like, like what? Like, nothing you're doing is hurting me. So I'm just going to knock you out here in a few seconds. And I think he carried that over into the second fight. The way that he kept standing in the pocket, just kind of sticking his arms out, just trying to parry everything, and then, trying to do that style fighting versus really come in with a different game plan, expecting a different type of Stipe. And Stipe adjusted, whereas DC just did the same thing throughout the entire fight.
Well, here's where my narrative, where I kind of differ from you guys, but I think I fall right in between what both you guys are saying. From your breakdown just there, Matt, to Kendrick, which you opened up with, which is I stopped scoring. People were talking about the scoring of the fight too, and kind of bringing that in the narrative. And yes, that is part of the narrative as far as Stipe's comeback and what made that great. But I stopped scoring live, guys. I don't know about you or the listeners at home, people that were watching with maybe more of that commentary access, because they take you into the corners as production tends to do. And Stipe or DC said, "Am I down too?" And that's not abnormal for a fighter to ask that or to lose track of the scorecards. But what it is typically indicative of is they took some shots in there and they don't know. It doesn't matter whether they're doing good or not, but especially a veteran fighter, someone who's so smart. Again, the reason why he was so lackadaisical, like Matt was pointing out in the first one, because DC, even in the heat of battle against a new division or a division he hasn't been to, a fresh face, he is still so smart and comfortable in there that he knows what's going on, which is why he was being so, there's tactical points to the hand pairing, but why he was being so lackadaisical, right? So that doesn't worry me as much. What worried me as soon as I heard between rounds 2 and 3, guys, DC goes to his corner and lost track of what was going on in the fight. Immediately, that was where my flag went up. I'm like, okay, something tagged him. This isn't right. He better get to wrestling or this fight's not going his way.
I missed that. I completely missed that.
I was a sports bar, so I could hear between rounds.
That's where my narrative kind of focused on, and I gotta go back and rewatch. About midway through the main card right now, so I got to go back and rewatch, guys. But that was my biggest takeaway. And I saw some talk about that, and some people dismissing it and saying, "No, fighters do that all the time and whatnot." And that is true, but again, they do it all the time because they lose track of what round it is. I think it was like Alex Caceres versus somebody. What was the last fight? The reason why it was Alex Caceres' last fight at bantamweight. I think he went on to maybe win the fight even, but his corner, John Crouch, tells him it's round 3, and he starts yelling at John Crouch saying, "You're lying. You're a liar. It's round 1." It's the craziest thing you ever seen, but Caceres moves up to 145 after that. So it wasn't so much a weight thing here, but, as far as concussive issues, I think that maybe they were apparent before they became apparent in the 4th round, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge, man. I wish I would have saw that.
Having inside information usually is a good thing, but I'm kind of because full disclosure, Dan, I was out at the first fight, and I was like, I was covering that fight card in the NBA Summer League because it was in July last year. And I kept saying, I was like, I'm not going to put no money on nothing. I'm just chilling out here. I kept saying that thing go to plus 220, plus 240. I was like, plus 265 is why I put my money on. I put 300 on DC and cashed in. And then we came on to show him Javier with it a couple weeks. And well, DC know he can't hurt him. So I'm coming to this fight thinking, like, we know he can't out wrestle him. If he can't hurt him, how can he win? So I was like, man, because I would have had that narrative had I not talked to them directly.
I was guilty on sprint.
We knew that for a fact. We saw that in the first round. He added him to his highlight reel. He slammed every mega person he's been in the ring with. He's got Bigfoot from the Grand Prix, John Jones in the second one. They got Stipe, but I guess it's a bad omen because 2 of those he lost.
Yeah, I thought he was trying to outdo Drakkar Close too for a second because both those guys had a little pro wrestling in them and posting the guys on their shoulder and took them for a ride. But no. I mean that is interesting. Yeah, I have to look at that.
Yeah, that's kind of wild, man. The thing that was crazy for me also is that I kind of mentioned a second ago, I was talking about how the trilogy didn't seem to be a thing that came into the forefront of everybody's minds. Everybody kind of jumped to the retirement aspect for DC, and I even put a poll up on Twitter. 54% of the people say retirement versus 31% trilogy, 15% something else. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
That everybody seems to be on board with, okay, we've had enough of DC. But even weirder that so many people were trying to discredit everything DC has done throughout his whole entire career at this point. because he lost to a guy he already beat. Like, it's so weird. I don't understand MMA fans. I don't.
That is the weird thing too, and like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the positive side to that coin, right, Matt? Where it's like people are talking about Stipe standings, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just one of those things that always happen, where it's like, yeah, you got to be against one, all the way for one, and all the way against the other. And it's ironic because I guarantee you, most of the people that were touting Stipe's records now weren't talking about Stipe's storyline, and whatnot. And that was, and I'm sure we'll get to the co-main event. And the co-main event played out like a lot of people, but there was a lot of people talking about one side of the co-main event and not the other. So there was a lot of that going on before the card. And of course, the coins always flip, right? It kind of tends to do that after the card to what we're talking about. And I'm just as guilty here too, guys. So, but yeah, I did notice that. I was surprised at that talk. I don't really think either guy should be diminished. I still think DC is a great legacy. The fact that he was able to do that and even get that little defense in the first time, even people that weren't crediting the Derek Lewis defense and maybe were calling it, fairly kind of for what it is. But at the same time, I think that in retrospect, especially with this loss, that it was probably a good move for DC to get that extra title defense on his belt, kind of pad that record up a bit and whatnot. So, yeah, I mean, I really don't think, DC's legacy is that tarnished. I feel like if you were going to tarnish DC's legacy, it's going to be because of the John Jones head-to-head matchups. And whether you're a hater or just a realist about it, you can make fair arguments there. And if you would have gone in and waxed Stipe guys for a second time, those arguments would have still been there, whether you were a hater or not. The fact is he has that chapter with John Jones, and that was always going to play some weight. But again, long-winded here, but I don't think it should affect DC that much. It doesn't feel like that right now. It's like a gut punch to everybody, but in retrospect, it really shouldn't affect them that much.
Me personally, I think if they do a trilogy and he wins, he's the best heavyweight. Like people were saying unequivocally that Stipe's the best heavyweight. His name is in the mix without a doubt. You can't sit there and say last year didn't exist. Just like on the other, you can't act like Saturday don't exist either. That's why they got to fight. If they don't fight again, I think Stipe gets it because of longevity, but DC pound for pound will be a top 3 because he did it at 2 different weight classes. Like we had just a Buckholtz on, and he said basically how Randy Couture was 205er fighting at heavyweight. DC was a heavyweight fighting half his career at 205.
That's very possible, man. Especially, I could see that, especially with no Brock Lesnar in the picture. The Stipe Jones thing seeming less likely. Since the rumor about it last year. And I know Jones will kind of give misinformation and say he's not interested in heavyweight, but I actually believe Jones when he says he's not interested in heavyweight. I think
he'll get knocked out. He'll lose because this is what happens. It's just like boxing. You can only go certain span. Like, for instance, there's a reason Andre Ward, as great as he was, kept his ass at light heavyweight to cruiserweight, as they call it in boxing. Because he don't have the punching power. John Jones could be winning a fight for 4.5 rounds against Derek Lewis and get caught with a one-hitter quit in the 5th round. And that's all we're talking about.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, you mentioned that, and I always think back to I forget it. And I actually watched this one live online, but Roy Jones Jr., I think he already was feeling the come down of the heavy of moving up weight classes, but it was the gentleman. And I believe this was actually at cruiserweight, not even at heavy, but like the gentleman in Australia, what it was. But that knockout, and that was a really bad one. That was kind of one of those the last nails in the coffin, so to speak. And I could see that, and I think Jones is a really smart guy when it comes to combat. I don't think anybody can argue that. He's really sharp, and I think he knows those edges aren't in his favor. So back to your point, though, Kendrick, I think that, the silver lining here is that the Stipe DC match that maybe people weren't that excited for, we were more excited for the co-main and the feature bout heading into 241. I think that gets a big bump if they do it a third time, even if they run back Stipe Francis 2 and let just DC kind of rest, recover, figure out his next move. Bring him back for the trilogy if Stipe beats Francis again. You know what I'm saying? It's even bigger then. So that's silver lining. But maybe it's because I'm just covering the sport. I'm jaded. I don't get it. I don't expect anybody that's retired to stay retired. But I also don't expect people to just keep going. At a certain point, I figure they got to stop. So
yeah, 100%. So let's switch gears. Co-main coming off the long layoff. The long layoff, just doing whatever the hell he wants to do at all times, Mr. Nate Diaz. came back, man, and looked pretty good. I think the first round he was a little shaky, but after that, it was like, okay, all right, this is Nate. This is Nate going full Diaz here, doing his thing, peppering you with punches until you just wanted to just like please, just like get me out of here. And the fact, before you speak on your piece, the fact that the fight wasn't stopped when Pettis turtled up and turned away from the action was mind-boggling to me.
Good refereeing, because
not good refereeing.
And that type of fight, you gotta adjust your refereeing versus the fight, because the fight was an entertainment fight. That's what people wanted to see. No. People would have been extremely pissed. They would have stopped it at that.
No, they wouldn't have.
But and add on this, Dan, because I know you watch everything. When are we gonna be consistent on the rules? Even in the DC fight, he had grabbed the cage. I remember the dude, and DC was the one that called it when they fought in Atlanta. He's like, they called the guy whatever, that old black guy. The guy too. He took a point. If that was universal across the rule book, because when people take a point for stuff that's supposed to be, people freak out because they don't enforce it enough. That's across the board.
That's first of all, that's never going to happen. But for what it's worth, Kendrick, that's my biggest pet peeve. What I always get mad about. Whenever you see me complain about a score, it's usually not because it's a bad score. I'm used to bad scores, but I'll usually start complaining if it's like the second or third bad score, because a lot of those, they're not just bad scores. You'll see one, ref judge on control while the other does on damage. Like, okay, what game are we playing here tonight? Let's just make it freaking consistent. Anyways, neither here nor there. But as far as the stoppage goes, I do agree with that. And I will say, Kendrick, whether it's grappling, like going to the turtle position, whether it's a guy doing like the McGregor or Alistair Overeem where they kind of run away to reset, I am way more forgiving of that than most. And what Anthony Pettis was doing was kind of turning away from the damage. And just turning away once, I will say that just once is enough for a ref to stop it, and where you can't really argue it. But even someone like me who is really, okay, well, that was a reaction. He just needed to regain himself. Give him a beat to regain himself. Oh, the guy's still on him. He had to do it again. Okay, maybe I'll let 2 go. But Anthony Pettis, I believe, did it for at least 3. Okay, 4 Kendrick's saying, and that sounds right to me. And by the third one, even for someone like me who's very lenient on it, I was just, okay, you got to stop that. Anthony Pettis is... people say, oh, he looks for ways out, or he's too tough for his own. But, the fact is, this guy fights the best of the best. He's in these crazy wars and has a history of being injured, fighting through these injuries before either having the corner stop it or him, whether how much of him is consciously doing it or not, turning away in a fight. So as much as I acknowledge that for being what it is, and I'm glad Duke Rufus stopped that fight against Tony, I would have been glad if the ref stopped this fight in the third for Nate's favor. But it's just it's hard to defend there. That being said about the fight, though, man, I was completely wrong about this, and it's crazy because it's like you go back to Conor Nate too, right? And it's like I love Nate, but I'm like, he's coming in this short notice. He's probably going to lose this one, so you pick Conor at 196. Of course, he upset. So again, going into Conor Nate 2, I went back and watched all of McGregor's fights just to see if he would throw a single leg kick, just to see if this would be a probability. And granted, McGregor's not old or as into his career as Nate, but he was into his career enough where, like, and I'm sure you see this too into boxing, right, Kendrick, where this guy is the fighter he is going to be.
Yeah, he has a pattern.
At a certain point, right? And the most amazing thing about McGregor is not only his pace and composure in that second fight, which is huge because that's, his kryptonite, right? But what was huge is he went with leg kicks, and he was able to chop Nate down. He never threw a single leg kick in his whole career. 22 fights, I believe. Not a single, and he throws it and wins a fight with it against a guy like Nate Diaz, who had a full camp, albeit Nate said he wasn't healthy. He had a full camp to prepare, right? So the flip coin, as impressive as that is for Conor, the flip side of that is like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that Nate got his leg chopped down in the last fight we saw him in by a guy who never threw leg kicks in his life, a guy who's now punching old men in a bar. And against the best kicker, say what you will, you don't have to be even be a believer of Showtime Pettis, but even those people are like, okay, probably one of the best kickers ever at 155 or 170 now. It just seemed like it all made sense. It all made too much sense. And Nate comes out, like Matt said, and he looks bad in the first round. Not only does he look bad in the first round, which is completely excusable. It's a 3-year layoff, but he looks bad in boxing range. He's getting countered by
he was throwing he was like fleeing.
Yeah, his defense was off, his balance was off, right, Kendrick? Like, and that's his shit. That's his boxing. Right. But meanwhile, and Nate's always been underrated in the clinch, and there's arguments for leg checks. He's done them before, but it wasn't anything for me to be like, if guys are landing you in the 90 percentile and your leg checks really aren't doing anything, they look weak and they're not hurting guys until we'll get to the second round here, guys, and they're not hurting guys, I really can't expect to take it too seriously, and even fights where he beat the kickers like Johnson and Cerrone, both those guys were tagging him in certain rounds, but Nate's mental warfare, he got him off their game and they started headhunting with him, right? And I thought that's what was happening to Pettis, but sure enough, man, not only does Nate come out showing stance switches in the beginning, and I was like, oh shit, Nate changed his game. Just showing stance switches, he knew, that guys are going to go for leg kicks. And, of course, he's known this all along. The frustrating thing about Nate Diaz, even though I love him, is why I can't pick him as confidently, it's because he never does anything about it. But he comes off right off the beat, guys. He's switching his stance. He's showing all these different looks and different even, like, Muay Thai weapons that he added to his game, hitting, like, crackdown and wrestling moves. And I was even one to defend his wrestling and show, but he was showing stuff he never showed in his career. I'm like, what the fuck? So it made no sense, guys.
Did you see his post-fight?
It made no sense.
Did you see his post-fight interview on the ESPN desk?
No.
Oh, he said he got wrestling on accident. That shit was so funny.
Wow.
Because he was talking about all the guys he was training with, all the wrestlers that he was training with. And he was like, man, I picked up wrestling on accident this camp. Like, oh.
No, that actually makes sense because, you look at Nate Diaz's takedowns before, he actually does have some takedowns that aren't that, like, judo trip, like he would change levels. But if you look at it, it only happened in this portion of his lightweight career because if you look at his career, there was this run right after the Ultimate Fighter run early on where guys like Clay Guida and Joe Stevenson, you see these losses, they were figuring out all you got to do is wrestle him against the cage. If you have good enough submission defense, you can just wrestle this guy and just take the mental warfare, take the boxing straight out of there, right? Yeah. And after that run, because again, I went back and watched all Nate's fights, you almost see him like start doing takedowns after those fights against guys when he starts getting guys who aren't good wrestlers. He even hits one against Josh Thompson before he loses, right? And I wondered in my head, back to your quote there, Matt, so apropos, I was like, I wonder just having to train, knowing what these guys were doing, that like having to train so much defense, he just naturally picked up offense, and we were seeing it, show up in his fights. And it did even late in his career where guys are supposed to be written fighters at this point. It was crazy.
Yes, so good, so good. And, of course, he delivered all the quotables in the world in his post-fight interviews as per Nate Diaz, as we expect. But one other fight I want to talk to you about is the feature bout, as they call it.
Oh, yeah.
Between Costa and Romero. We rewatched the second round. That seems to be the round that everybody's split on. We rewatched it a few minutes ago, and I'm even more convinced that Costa won that second round now after looking at it a second time. But how did you see it?
Yeah, man, I got to rewatch it. I really want to, but I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that controversial. And I was someone watching live in the moment. I was biased because I both picked and I played Romero. I had a decent change on him. So again, my scorecards were biased. But even that being said, I remember saying at a point in the second round with the way it was going, and before Yoel hits his late takedown, and no, that wasn't enough to win it for me.
5 seconds left in the round.
But here's what I say to my buddy Brian in midway through the fight, where I go. And this might explain why certain people, even some people that I respect, may be scoring it for Romero, even though I disagree. Is because midway through the second round, I look at my buddy Brian, I go, man, Romero must really be thinking these are boxing judges tonight with the way he's fighting. Because even though, again, back to the Perry Luque thing, like people are like, oh, the harder shots. Like, yeah, you really got to, and I don't blame people because I have a quote-unquote educated eye and I miss this shit all the time. The judges have a quote-unquote educated, they miss the shit all the time. So I'm not, being, punitive here or anything like that. But there are just so many examples, guys, like Perry Luque, where, and not that there's nothing wrong with scoring a Perry scorecard, by the way. I feel that's more defensible here than a Romero scorecard, if that makes sense. But the same principle is when the guy's blocking the big shots, I always hate it because I'm like, fuck, man. Not only the non-educated eyes, but the people who matter that are deciding these guys' paychecks, the judges, I don't know if they're seeing the counters. They're just getting sold on the big wooing and what the crowd reacts to and what you hear, even though what you're hearing is the block. You're not seeing the slick little counters, and he's making this guy work. But it's not boxing, guys. And even though we critique these referees or these judges from coming from boxing, they don't judge it like boxing. They still don't judge counters very well, folks. And so I was like, man, Yoel better be banking on that. And clearly he was, because he didn't really change up his style until like the third round. Minute 4 on from the third round or so from my memory. So like and the crowd never likes those fights where the guy wins who lost the third round. They're always going to boo. It's not because it was a bad decision. It could be even clearer than this, guys. It could be a clear rounds 1 and 2 for Costa, and then that third round looks the way it does, and people are going to get pissed. And I was even saying, I'm like, Romero's gonna. He kept, even in his flurries though, he kept letting off guys. And I don't know if that was gas tank, but regardless if it was gas tank or not, again, turning to my friend I was watching the fight with, saying, dude, he's gonna regret not doing that, because even if he can't get him out of there, he needs to sell that he can, because he needs to at least sell a 10-8 here. Because again, even live, I didn't give Romero's round 1 and 2. So I don't know if that's helpful, considering I agree with you guys, but that was my take.
I mean, hey,
I think people looking at it more technical when you can't. Like, at the end of the day, I'm getting tired of hearing about Costa, but the dude had a chin. Dude,
yeah, so
because we ain't seen him get cracked, so he's gonna be a problem to get out of there. Because dude gonna have a chin. He's ballsy, and he believes in his power. And he does what he does good. I don't get this is how these people have these pedigrees. He's a world-class wrestler. She's a black belt jiu-jitsu. And they don't ever use it.
Yes, yeah. You're right. That doesn't all. There's so much, invisible math that has to be done there. You can't just go off that. That's a great point. And yeah, just one last thing on Costa. Again, the same thing. Like, I was completely wrong on this one, guys, on the pick and everything. But I don't regret my analysis at all, because we never saw Costa in the third round. And that was the nightmare moment. I'm like, if this thing makes it to the third round, your first third round is against Yoel Romero, you're going to be in trouble. So the analysis, I can't regret that too much. But what the good thing about being wrong, guys, it makes it that much more impressive that not only did he, survive, and not only did he survive and got the win, like, Costa didn't look like he mentally buckled. He was in there. Even in the round that he lost, he was swinging right back. I mean, like, there's a lot to like if you're looking from a prospect point of view. I didn't consider Costa as serious of a player if he made it to Izzy. When that whole feud was, I'm like, oh, Izzy will wipe the floor with him. I'm not saying I wouldn't pick Izzy and Izzy wouldn't win, but man, does that fight, get more potentially interesting. I know he's got Whitaker, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, the thing about Costa is, like, he does, to me, he's not special like some people keep saying because he knock out these bums. He just does what he does very well, and his will to win and his chin was high, at least on my end, was highly underrated. So he has a shot. He's a wild dog.
I agree.
But he's not special though. Not to me.
Well, he's got to prove it, but he's definitely opened that door for me where he can be. I didn't think he could be special before, admittedly, but it's hard to judge these guys. We just don't know. We didn't have the sample size on him, so this is his first time at the distance. I mean, this is a hell of a first time to go the distance. Exactly. So I'm sitting back. I'll let him surprise me, man. I'll let him surprise me again.
Yeah, he has a good mental game, which you can't put no value on that.
Yeah, bullies need that.
Yeah, my main reason I picked Costa to win. My main reason was picking him. I was like, Yoel's got to get old at some point. He's 42 years old, and
he's like 42. Like he's 40.
He looked old to me in the facts where he kept letting off the gas, like Dan was talking about.
Yeah,
like
even for Yoel,
much younger Yoel would have smashed on the gas and got him out of there.
He's always fought that way. Like look at his spectacular knockouts, like the one on Wyman. I was there. He was losing.
Yes,
he wasn't.
Obviously,
he fights in spurts.
Obviously, third round Romero is a thing for real because he always wins in the third round, but he gets people out of there in the third round. Like Dan said, he kept letting off the gas. He would charge forward, but he wouldn't complete the sequence, so to speak.
Yeah, he wasn't even doing his flying knees. He did all his setups for it, too. He did his fake shots and his real shots, and both of those get you changing your level. You're like, is this a fake shot? Is this a real shot? And that's when he hits you with the flying knee. Right. But, yeah, no, it wasn't. And, he's always had susceptible, lulls to Kendrick's point, but a lot of those most questionable lulls, Weidman was a 3-round fight, yes, but a lot of those weren't 5-round fights. So if he was looking that way in the third round, even though I wasn't putting a lot of weight into that, admittedly, that narrative, what Matt's narrative was, I agree with it after looking at this fight that, I'm usually one of the last people that'll say age or anything like that or chin. But, yeah, I would I got to watch it again. But that's what I was thinking the whole time was like, oh, man, he's still an athlete. He's still crazy. He's still going to be able to knock a lot of the top 10 silly. But this is an older Romero finally.
Yeah, for sure. So.
Matt he usually overlook signs for a Father Time.
No, I don't agree.
Father Time means you should be fighting no more. Like Father Time is when you see something happen. It's not even a fighter. Look at a basketball player. You see them doing stuff or something happening to that individual athlete that's been at a high level that you ain't seen their whole career. That's sign Father Time not tapping on that shoulder. Some people crash quicker than others, but there's a sign. Like Cyborg, Father Time's tapping on that shoulder. we're not seeing that same lady. We won't see that lady no more. Don't mean she shouldn't be going to a promotion and clean up and whoop all these chicks she's gonna whoop. It just means she ain't that same lady no more.
Why are you making me sad, Kendrick? Now you're making me think back to when Clyde stopped gliding Drexler, man. I mean, that was one of my favorites, man. Anyways.
I hope he holds off on LeBron for another year or two. I gotta give me some more Laker. Gotta give me some new Laker gear. Hold off for another year on LeBron would be good.
Yeah,
he's coming for LeBron though. He's on the block. He's on LeBron and Tom Brady street.
All right. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't disagree with Father Time all the time. Is that my thing is Kendrick likes to go to Father Time as reason one for somebody losing all the time. I'm like, that can't be the number one reason all the time. Like, there's technical reasons people lose fights, but yeah, it's I agree with you, Dan. I think Yoel could still. I don't know how much longer he's going to fight. For one, I don't like. I mean, the title shot's got to be out of the window at this point. Unfortunately. For him, but it is what it is. He's still one of the best to ever do it. He still looks like he's 25, even though he doesn't fight like it anymore.
He legitimately do. It's like most Cubans look older. He's like, well, how he get that G?
Yeah. And of course, I mean, if he starts actually getting some payout from that settlement, I mean, he'll be living good.
Yeah. I mean, even just a percentage of it, right? I mean, obviously, it's not going to be for the full fledged amount, but I didn't see too much of that narrative, but you do wonder maybe how much of it is that, like with the title shot out of the picture, money and whatnot. When the going does get tough and there's no belt on the line, maybe he's got some guaranteed money. Maybe not accusing him of that. He definitely went for it in the third round, but you got to wonder, right? I mean, how much of that maybe he can get up for another one.
Dan, tell me this: why don't people? A lot of people like to hype up the next big fighter or the next big trainer. How come nobody really talks about Eric Captain? I won't say it's his last name, Alabon.
El Bahassin.
Yeah. Why don't people talking? He got the champ in 2 different promotions. He got these up and come. The dude, his resume is almost impeccable for 2019. Him or who's the other guy that's got somebody high? Was it Mike Brown? Him or Mike Brown got like the pound for pound the best resumes going right now. This year.
Probably. Well, one, I think a lot of people don't talk about him because Eric does not shy about talking about himself. And I say that jokingly and lovingly because he deserves it. He's a really good coach. I gave him a shout on the video breakdown before this fight. As far as leaving room to be surprised, we haven't seen Costa in a year, and he's training under Eric, who really is good about networking his guys, getting his guys to the right camp. Eric is good with wrestling, but he's as far as MMA and striking. He makes sure to get his guys, whether it's at Fight Ready, cross training at CSA, or down in Brazil, the Pitbull brothers. So yeah, I think people are going to come around Kendrick. I just think like hardcores like us pretty much know him right now and what he's done. And I think by the end of the year, it probably will be more on a casual level, like maybe a Greg Jackson or so to speak. But really, at the end of the day, these guys don't get enough love as they deserve, and I don't know. I'm a technical nerd, so I always love knowing what's in the head and what's going on with these coaches.
Who wins if Cejudo fights Valentina? She wants all the smoke.
Jesus. Stop! Don't even answer that.
She wants all the smoke.
Don't answer that. Don't even answer that. Don't even entertain this bullshit.
I'm not even entertaining the Triple C nickname. I mean, I'm surprised I said it just now, guys. Even before he started being adamant. I was just saying, like on Junkie Radio, like they reference him as that. I'm like, I am not calling him that, guys. I'll do the double champ. He's great. He's awesome. I'll say all those things, but I'm not. Even just the nickname is cringy for me. I don't know. That even the nickname was off.
Is that crazy look like?
Yeah, he's wild. He's wild, but at least his gimmick is more natural to his real life character, which is he's a goofy ass dude.
Yeah. He's turned it up to 10. That's the right way to do it.
Exactly.
That is the right way to do it.
That's the way to do a pro wrestling gimmick. Get yourself.
This dude and his gimmicks,
turn up the
man.
volume.
This dude killed me with the gimmick. It's something. What is a gimmick to you, Dan? Because somebody really doing stuff that's not allowable by anybody else. I think that seems kind of real to me.
Hold on.
It seems kind of real to me. It
Pause.
ain't just like they're just putting a character.
Pause.
They're doing stuff that's rules against, and they're blatantly getting allowed to do them that nobody else in the organization can do.
Dude.
So you're doing something.
Dude,
you're not faking.
Kendrick, you act like you don't watch pro wrestling and you don't know what a gimmick is. You know what a pro wrestling gimmick is, and that's exactly what we're talking about.
It's a persona, maybe, but
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Strong.
That's exactly
Gimmicks a little strong.
No, that's the definition of the word. Gimmick. The Undertaker doesn't walk around in a fucking black cloak and a top hat everywhere.
But who else do you see with the fake belt in a UFC cage and is allowed to do it on a consistent basis? I'll wait.
All I know is some gimmicks are dangerous than others, and I think we know what we're talking about here, guys. So,
exactly.
But yes,
Exactly.
they're gimmicks. I will say some gimmicks are more tasteful, and some gimmicks are more safer, and some gimmicks are more dangerous.
Yes, 100%.
He got a pop though when he showed up the other day though. That was crazy. At least on TV, it sounded like he got a pop when he walked up.
He got a pop
in there.
and it was chants of "F you, Colby," and "You suck," and all that stuff. You know?
Yeah, I just love that they had to get at least like 2 spaces away from Jorge Masvidal and just laugh like they're not buddies.
That was hilarious.
I mean, such an equator of like reaction to looks and then knowing what actually is like real behind the scenes just made that whole scene just hilarious. Like, again, I'm pro wrestling, which I know upsets people talking about it. I don't want the sport to head to pro wrestling, but I'm also one of those people that don't hate pro wrestling. I used to love it when I was younger, and I appreciate that culturally the ties that MMA does have to it. But man, that was getting almost too pro wrestling there. As much as I love both those guys for different reasons, that was just too much pro wrestling, kind of where we're headed. But perhaps that's another 100%. Argument for another day, guys. But that
for sure.
Even his intro though, his entrance to his last fight, he comes to the Kurt Angle. I thought Kurt Angle was going to be coming out there with him.
He's exactly telling you it's a pro wrestling gimmick. He literally put it on the line for you. But yeah, it is what it is, man. Yeah, like we'll save that whole conversation for another day. But
right,
let's go ahead and get out of here on that,
Jesus.
man. We appreciate the time as always, Dan, and thanks for adjusting your time schedule with ours and our emergencies we had to work through yesterday. So we appreciate it, man.
Anytime, man. Love your guys' show. Keep doing it. Keep keeping the interviews real. I love your guys' interviews, especially when you guys aren't shy about getting not just big name fighters, but certain coaches. Love your interviews with Dean Thomas, of course. So thank you guys for having me anytime, and all the best.